Hey everyone, and welcome back to Storyist. Today, our story is about a wounded tiger who comes to the house of a man. You won't believe what happens. Stick around to find out. Paul had just returned from a hard day at work. He dropped his keys on the kitchen counter and put the pot on the stove to boil. While waiting for the water to heat, he unbuttoned his shirt and draped it over a chair. When the kettle whistled, he put a tea bag in his cup and poured the water in. He retired to his porch, sitting on the bench and sipping his drink. He leaned back in the chair and drank in the cool night's air. Usually nothing interesting happened at work, but today he had something to mull over. Everyone had been talking about the news that tigers had escaped an illegal enclosure. Someone had been keeping them as pets, but didn't know how to take care of them properly. They'd failed to maintain one of the enclosures, so the fence had been worn away by claws and weather until a hole was left. Paul laughed at the thought of tigers roaming around their suburban Midwestern town. He thought about calling his ex-wife to discuss it with her, but she'd already told him she didn't talk anymore. Plus, the police had said they were killing any of the tigers they found, and that would make her sad. Paul realized he had no one to call. He had been sitting there for about an hour, breathing in the sweet scents of spring air, staring out into space. He heard a growl. Paul instantly sat up. His heart pounded in his chest. He waited, but was met with silence. I must have imagined it, he thought. He continued to listen. Another growl, and out of the bush appeared a tiger. He sat, frozen in fear. He stared at the tiger and couldn't help but admire its unique features. Its stripes like a thumbprint, the bright orange of its fur, its pupils a pinpoint in its yellow eyes. Then he noticed the blood. The tiger had a huge gash in its side. It approached him. Its eyes looked pleading. It collapsed in front of him, its huge diaphragm heaving. Paul didn't know what to do. He considered calling the police, but he knew they killed the tiger. He couldn't let them. It was just a scared creature, like him. He didn't know how to treat the wounds. Who could he ask for help from? An idea occurred to him, but he knew it was crazy. Paul could ask his neighbor a few doors down for help. He'd only spoken to her once, when he first moved in with his ex-wife. All he knew about her was she was a vet. Her name was Daisy. He remembered because he thought it was a pretty name. Paul realized she was his only chance to save the tiger. He went inside and got a huge salad bowl and put water in it, and put it near the tiger. It began to drink quickly. "I'll be right back," he said, not sure if it understood. He hoped it wouldn't run away before he returned. He ran to her house like a madman. He rang the doorbell once. "What do you need, Paul?" she asked. "That is your name, right? Paul? I remember because we met once. It was a Monday, and it was a weird kind of rainy where the sun was still up, so it made a rainbow. And you were—" "Sorry," Paul interrupted. "This is an emergency. I need your help. There's a tiger in my back porch. I don't know what to do. It's bleeding and—" "Let me grab my things," she replied. Daisy turned quickly, leaving the door open. She returned a few minutes later with supplies for treating wounded animals. They ran back to his house together. I always," she said between breaths, "keep stuff for animals in my house. A lot of them get injured by cars. I can't just let them die. I have to try." They ran in silence until they reached his house. They returned to his porch, where the tiger still lay, breathing heavily and moaning a little under its breath. "Hi, beautiful," she said to the tiger, and turned to Paul. "It's a girl." She turned back to the tiger. "You are just the most gorgeous thing. Let's see that cut." She carefully approached it. "I won't do a thing to hurt you. I promise." She bent down. "Be careful," Paul said. "Do you want me to do this or not? Now quiet down and go get us both water, and whatever you have for first aid, too. And quick, Paul," Daisy said. She turned again to examine the gash, muttering to herself about the type of injury. Skin lacerations. We're gonna get you all fixed up." Paul returned soon, and she took out a shot of anesthetic from her bag. "Now this'll only hurt a bit, darling," she told the tiger. "I have some wet-to-dry bandages from this time I hurt your leg. I can tell because of your preference for your right side. It was obvious when we were running. Those are perfect. Put them over here. Thanks, Paul. Go through my bag until you find a GME powder and a bottle. Mix that with water and bring it back out." Daisy applied the solution, and the tiger almost roared in protest. "Shh! Save your strength, baby. I'm not trying to hurt you." The tiger seemed to understand and laid its head back down on the ground. Paul returned with the bottle mixture. Daisy took the water Paul had gotten for her earlier and wet the bandage. She wrapped it around the wound and applied the dry dressing over it. "There we go. Pretty soon you'll be good as new." "Come here, Paul." "I'm afraid." "Of what?" "Come on, I'm here. This is special. You'll never experience something this amazing in your life again. Dying from it would be better than not experiencing it at all." "Well, that's comforting," Paul said, but he approached carefully and kneeled down next to her. She put the bottle in his hands. She guided his hands to the mouth of the tiger. "Come on, baby. You have to eat." After a few moments, the tiger took the bottle in its mouth, sucking like a baby. "This is amazing," Paul said. "Weird, but amazing. I can't believe a tiger would ever need help from us." He turned to Daisy and found himself enchanted by her gaze. They remained staring in silence for a few moments, until Paul broke in. "What do we do with her? We can't keep her here. It wouldn't be right. She needs land to run, to be free." Daisy thought for a moment. "I can call my friend. She volunteers at a rescue. She could get me in contact with the boss. We could explain the situation." "But will she have enough space?" "The enclosures are huge. She'll have to be anesthetized to get there. But once she is, she'll be happy. I know it. She won't feel caged, Paul. Hand me my phone." Daisy called her friend and paced around, getting connected from one person to the next, explaining the situation over and over. Paul continued feeding the tiger until she was done with her bottle, then sat a respectful distance away. Even though the tiger was there, he couldn't keep himself from looking at Daisy, at the way her hair reflected the sunlight, her hazel eyes, and the way her laugh rang, and the way she talked so fast it was hard to keep up. She caught him looking and smiled, and he blushed. He turned back to the tiger, embarrassed. Daisy hung up the phone and kneeled next to him. She took his head in her hands and pressed her lips against his. They both closed their eyes, knowing they'd never be alone again. Thanks for listening to our story. If you want to hear any more amazing stories about amazing people, be sure to subscribe for more and hit that notification bell. If you liked this video, be sure to comment and leave a like. See you next time!